No one held a funeral for your last strategic initiative. There was a launch, there was energy, there was a presentation with an ambitious name, and 6 months later, no one in your company mentions it. It didn't explode. There wasn't a crisis that killed it. It simply stopped showing up in conversations. And you, as a good operator, already have a diagnosis. You didn't have disciplined enough people, or you didn't apply enough pressure, or you didn't have the right framework. That diagnosis is wrong. And it is the most expensive mistake you are making as a leader. Execution does not fail because of a lack of effort or discipline. It fails because leaders manage results instead of governing the execution system. And execution systems die in predictable and detectable ways. That is what we are going to do today, an autopsy. This analysis is built on the second edition of the 4 Disciplines of Execution by Chris McChesney, Sean Covey, and Jim Hewling, Franklin Covey's execution methodology. But let me warn you about something. This is not a summary of the 4 disciplines. There are plenty of summaries of this book. What almost no one talks about is what the second edition contains in its 2 least cited thirds. Why execution systems die, what the one piece is that keeps them alive, and how a leader measures whether the organization is executing, which is not the same thing as measuring whether the results moved. By the time you finish this video, you will be able to do 3 things. 1. Diagnose why your strategic initiatives die from slow suffocation. 2. Recognize the early warning signs of system death weeks before they appear in the results. And 3. Build the minimum weekly loop with its non-negotiable rules that keeps an initiative alive without depending on heroics or motivation. Let's start with the enemy, because it is not the one you think. Your strategy has 2 types of initiatives, and confusing them is the first mistake. Some initiatives can be executed with a signature. You approve the budget, hire people, buy the system, reorganize the team. If your authority and your money are enough, the initiative does not need any special treatment. But there is a second kind, initiatives that require other people to change their behavior. The salesperson has to make the visit they were not making. The supervisor has to walk the job site. The nurse has to audit before every surgery. And behavior cannot be signed into existence. A Bain & Company analysis from 2018, covering 184 global companies, found that about 65% of initiatives required significant behavioral change from employees, and that managers in general do not anticipate it or plan for it. That is where the real enemy appears, the whirlwind of day-to-day operations, the enormous amount of energy your operation consumes just to stay alive. And be careful, the whirlwind is not the villain. It is your business operating, and if you ignore it, it kills you today. But it acts like a predator toward anything new because the urgent beats the important every single time. That is why your initiatives do not die all at once. They die from slow suffocation, consumed week by the operation. Playbook number 1, the autopsy. If the whirlwind kills everything new, why do some initiatives survive? Because death is not random. The book itself, and this is what the summaries never tell you, catalogs the ways execution systems die. I compressed them into 5 signatures of death. Learn them, because one of them killed your last initiative. Signature 1, multiplied goals. Everything is priority number 1. 10 critical objectives, each with its own committee. It sounds ambitious, but the math is simple. The energy a team has outside its day-to-day work is finite and divided across 10 priorities. It breaks through nothing. When everything is critical, nothing is. Signature 2, the disguised goal. Growing revenue is not an initiative. It is the whirlwind wearing a tie. A goal so broad that no one can act on it is not a strategic bet. It is the same old operation, renamed. Signature 3, rearview-mirror metrics. You manage the initiative by looking at results. Monthly sales, margin, turnover. They are all rear-view mirrors. They tell you where you have been, not what to do now. Deming argued that managing by financial results is like driving while looking in the rear-view mirror. And he argued something even more uncomfortable. When most people behave the same way most of the time, the problem is not the people. It is the system. And the leader owns the system. Signature 4, dead scoreboards. This one has an external document behind it, and you should frame it. John Case published it in Inherent magazine in 1998. What gets measured gets done, but only for a while. Companies filled their walls with metric boards. A week would go by without anyone updating them. Then a month. People experienced them as surveillance and did exactly the minimum. Eventually, the boards came down. Burn that law into your mind. Measurement without cadence decays. Always. Signature 5. Conditional commitments. I was going to do it, but something urgent came up, and because something urgent always comes up, a conditional commitment is dead on arrival. When a leader tolerates it once, the entire team learns that the standard is negotiable, and in the face of these 5 signatures, the leader's mistake is always the same. Diagnose the people and prescribe pressure. More pressure on the numbers, another results meeting, or buying the next miracle cure. The authors report a contrast that is worth more than any theory. At one Marriott hotel, according to their account, a $20 million renovation failed to move guest satisfaction. A year of work on the team's behavior did, to levels that hotel had not seen in decades, again, according to the authors. Pay attention to what that means. Capital does not buy execution. You can sign a $20 million check and still fail to move the number that matters. Your practical action from this playbook: perform an autopsy on your last dead initiative. Which signature killed it? Multiplied goals, disguised goal, rearview mirrors, dead scoreboard, or conditional commitments? And the question that matters most: in which week was it already detectable? If you cannot answer that, that is exactly the problem. The next 2 playbooks are the solution. Playbook number 2. The load-bearing wall. Out of the entire execution apparatus, goals, metrics, scoreboards, meetings, there is one structural piece. Remove any of the others and the system limps. Remove this one and everything collapses, even if the rest is perfect. The book itself reports the case that demonstrates it, and it is the only complete failure and recovery arc in the entire source. They call it Store 334. The worst supermarket in a chain of 250 with a burned-out manager. The company installs the complete system, a clear sales goal, measures for every department, scoreboards on the wall, everything a consultant would sell you. The result? Employees ripped the scoreboards down on the first day, and when they measured the quality of execution in that store, it scored 13 out of 50. It had the entire system, and it was dead. What was missing? One thing. No one sat down every week to hold each other accountable. The manager installed a weekly meeting built around one question: what are you going to do this week to move the scoreboard? And according to the book, the store went from 13 to 38 out of 50 in 10 weeks, and finished with the best year-over-year sales in its district. That is the structural piece, a weekly loop of peer accountability. And I say peer accountability deliberately. People work hard not to let down their boss, but they will do almost anything not to let down their teammates. The minimum loop has non-negotiable rules. Listen to them for what they are, the conditions that keep the system alive. First, the session is sacred. Same day, same time, every week, 20 to 30 minutes. If the leader cannot attend, they delegate, but the meeting still happens. Every time you cancel it, your organization learns that the initiative is optional. Second, the whirlwind does not enter, not a single operational agenda item. If there is a fire, hold another meeting immediately afterward. This half hour is the only territory in the week that operations are not allowed to invade. Third, the leader reports first. Before asking others to account for their commitments, account for yours. That order is not courtesy. It is the message. Fourth, the agenda is fixed, and it has 3 moves. Account for last week's commitments. Review the scoreboard to learn what is working and what is not. Then plan the commitments for the coming week. Fifth, each person creates their own commitments. The leader can veto, never dictate. A dictated commitment produces compliance. A self-authored commitment produces an owner. And there is a standard, specific, personal, in the first person, completable within the same week, and capable of moving a measure the team can influence. 1 or 2 per person, not 5. Sixth, the most uncomfortable one, commitments are unconditional. There is no unless the week gets complicated. The week always gets complicated, and when someone fails to follow through, the moment is handled in 3 steps. First, respect for the person and for their whirlwind. Then, reaffirm that commitments here are not conditional. And finally, invite them to catch up. Both weeks, the one they missed and the new one. Your practical action: install this loop in one initiative, not all of them. A fixed calendar block, scoreboard updated before the meeting begins, leader reports first, self-authored and unconditional commitments, and give it 3 or 4 weeks. That is how long it takes for the rhythm to settle in. Playbook number 3, the leader's dashboard. Here is the idea that separates a serious operator from a framework tourist, and it is the underlying thesis of this video. Results and execution quality are two different things, and they are measured separately. Think about it for a moment. Your result, sales, margin, retention, is contaminated by forces you do not control: the economy, a competitor, the weather, a regulatory change. You can have a spectacular quarter with an execution system that is dying. That is called luck. And you can have a mediocre quarter with a system executing flawlessly. That is called bad weather. The authors themselves admit it. Treating goal achievement as the only indicator is a dangerous mindset. If you only look at results, you do not know whether you are executing. You only know whether you had the wind at your back. So what does the leader look at every week? 4 observable things. 1. Did the cadence hold? Did the session happen with the people in the room without being rescheduled? 2. Were commitments created and completed? Are they still self-authored and specific, or are they the same commitments from 3 weeks ago? 3. Were the lead measures executed to standard? Not approximately, to standard. And 4. Is the scoreboard alive, and is the result responding? Because if the measures are moving and the result is not, your causal bet is wrong and the measures need to change. And that is not failure, that is the system learning. And one rule changes everything. These 4 do not compensate for one another. An excellent result does not cover up a dead cadence. The book builds this idea into an execution score inside its own software ecosystem. Keep the concept, because that is what matters, and build it with what you already have. This homemade version is our adaptation, not the official instrument. You do not need software. You need 4 questions and honesty. This is where the early warning signs I promised you at the beginning live. A scoreboard that has not been updated in 10 days. A session rescheduled twice in 1 month. Commitments that repeat unchanged. The whirlwind slipping into the agenda. Every one of those signals appears weeks before the result falls. The income statement is the last thing to find out that your system died. The book reports the case of a technology vice president with 46 teams working on system outages. In the first few months, wins started coming in, and the man did something extremely unusual. He refused to accept them. His line was, "I can't manage what I don't understand." He sat down and listened to reports from all 46 teams until he understood which behavior was producing which result. That is governing execution, refusing even good news that you cannot explain. And a symmetrical warning, because this playbook cuts both ways. Real adoption of any system has a plateau, rapid improvement at first, then flat weeks while habits settle in, and only then does the payoff arrive. The impatient leader's mistake is dismantling the system in the middle of the plateau, killing a living system because they are reading it through the eyes of results. The 4 questions tell you the difference. If the cadence holds, the commitments are being kept, and the measures are being executed, the system is alive, even if the number does not show it yet. Your practical action. Add the 4 questions to your weekly review with every initiative owner. Score them simply, green or red. 2 consecutive weeks with any one of them in red. Intervene in the system, not the people. Let's close the full system, because the 3 playbooks are really one. The autopsy gave you the diagnosis. Initiatives die in 5 predictable ways, and the fatal mistake is responding with more pressure on results. The load-bearing wall gave you the piece that prevents those deaths. The unconditional weekly loop of peer accountability, the only structural part of the entire apparatus. And the leader's dashboard gave you the governance instrument. Measure execution as something separate from results, and read the early warning signs where they appear first, which is never the income statement. An honest warning, because this channel does not sell miracles. This system has a single point of failure, and it is you. The evidence in the book comes from client cases from the consulting firm itself, with no published failure rate, so take it for what it is. Interested party reports, not independent science. And the system demands something the book barely solves: your weekly consistency. If you cancel the session, your entire organization learns to cancel it. No framework survives an intermittent leader. Your immediate action, tomorrow, not next Monday. Choose one active strategic initiative. The most important one that is currently suffocating. Just one. Run the 5-signal audit on it. Can someone on your team name the goal without being reminded? Is there a lead measure the team can directly influence? Was the scoreboard updated less than 7 days ago? Has the cadence held for the last 4 weeks? Were last week's commitments completed? 5 questions, 5 minutes. Then put the 20 to 30-minute weekly block on your calendar as non-negotiable. And stop doing 3 things. Stop interrogating results in that meeting. Stop canceling it. Delegate it. Do not cancel it, and stop writing your people's commitments for them. The sign that you are doing it right. Within 3 or 4 weeks, you can answer the question, are we executing without looking at the income statement? And I'll leave you with a question for the comments, because I want to hear from real operators. Which of the 5 signatures killed your last initiative? And did you see it coming, or did you only find out through the results? Tell me below. On this channel, we turn business books into executable systems. If you lead people who lead people, stay close.